So my question is, which which team that was supposed to just be what's going to go down as the biggest disappointment of this season? And I'm specifically looking at a team that's not going to make the play-in or not make the playoffs that was just supposed to be there. And so the names that I'm immediately thinking of, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, I don't include the Lakers because I don't know who's really disappointed by them. But also the who did I say? The Warriors, the Timberwolves, and the Blazers, like, have to go down as a pretty massive disappointment. I don't think there's anybody in the East that maybe the Pelicans. I think if you want to loop them into there, but that's also a West, like, because they're still, look, the Pelicans are only 2 losses in front of the 11th place Jazz. So those basically, I just named the entire Western Conference playing field right now. But the Blazers, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans, those are kind of who I'm looking at as the biggest disappointment. In the East, it's just like, if the Bulls don't make the play-in, that was just never, like, yeah.
Yeah. I think I was actually looking back at some of the over-under win totals and like our projections for the standings we did several months ago. And so based on that, for me, Minnesota would clearly, it's like, I think I had Minnesota being like third in the West with like 52 or 53 wins or something like that. And that, I don't think they're going to miss the play-in round, but like, they're just nowhere near the regular season team I thought they'd be. I think we both agreed that like the Gobert acquisition came with some playoff questions, but at least for, the 82 games during the season, he was just going to be a defense unto himself. This was going to be a top 5 defense, top 10 for sure, easily. And the offense would just work. And Towns being hurt, I guess, like gives you some cover there for it gives me cover for missing that prediction so badly.
Right.
But it's still like, you don't trade your whole draft for the next half decade plus and get worse, which is like very much a possibility right now. And at the very least, it's a disappointment that they're not, for sure a top 4 team in the West, top 3, let alone top 3, which is where I thought they might be going into the playoffs.
We were both absurdly high on them leading into the regular season. We had questions about their playoff viability. Their defense has been good when Rudy Gobert's on the floor. Their offense, we can say that Towns missing him has been part of the disappointment. And they were a little bit better before the trade deadline, only they then traded one of their most efficient players at the trade deadline in D'Angelo Russell, who was having a heck of a stretch. And like the first 3 games of Mike Conley haven't looked particularly great. How long does that take them to integrate him? But like the offense with Towns, Edwards, and Gobert on the court this season has ranked in the 8th percentile of efficiency per cleaning the glass.
It's hard to even understand how that's possible.
It's like Mike Conley's not just going to come in and change that.
Right. Well, just normal regression is going to change that to some extent. But like, when's Towns coming back? Do we even know yet? I feel like
the hope is like with 10 to 15 games remaining in the season.
Yeah.
So it's not even a lot of time to, I think. So my pick, I think the Timberwolves are a good pick. I just feel like they're still going to probably make the play-in. I am a little bit more nervous about the Pelicans. I came closer to choosing them than I thought I was. I'm going with the Blazers because you don't get to say that you're on Damian Lillard's timeline and then fucking sell basically at the deadline. I think when you look at just the net aggregate value that they got for all of their assets, it's fine, but it's still sort of like a Damian Lillard's timeline, my ass situation. Like there's so little about what they're doing is inspiring. They're trying to rebuild around 2 undersized guards again. Like we haven't seen that movie before. Only you have a worse version of Yusuf Nurkic, who I don't know if it's because he was trying to play through an injury, like leading into the All-Star break, but like we saw his minutes start to decline. Well, he eventually got sidelined with that calf injury and he was trying to play through it. Like what, you're going to go pay Jeremy Grant 25, almost $30 million a year? Is it a guarantee he comes back? I would say probably yes, if they're willing to pay him. But if you don't, that's even a bigger disaster. But to not even be like right now, they have to like leapfrog 2 teams to get inside the play-in. And so are they going to be better than the Jazz, Thunder, Warriors, Timberwolves, and Pelicans? Which of those 2 teams are you going to jump? Maybe the Jazz, because they're clearly not interested in now. But, oh, hey, the Lakers are right behind you, and they look a little bit better on paper. So it's almost like fending off 3 teams. It's just, I liked their team on paper this year. And I'm not saying they were supposed to be a title contender, but you looked at this roster, saw you were below 500, outside play-in territory, and did jack shit at the trade deadline to bump up your immediate ceiling. And yeah, I get that you were asset strapped in part because Neil O'Shea traded that one pick protected until the end of time to Chicago. But like there had to be other moves on the tables. This franchise, it doesn't, whether it's Neil O'Shea or Cronin, like I'm tired of watching them aim for these singles and doubles or fucking walks at this point. Like you have to go for the triple or the home run. And that's just a massive disappointment. And yeah, okay, maybe Tybal or Reddish kind of pans out as a keeper. Like they're not going to change the tide or the tenor of your season here. And so I recognize that like maybe they weren't good enough to significantly level up, but then you should have picked a more wholesale direction where it's like, if you actually believe in this core, Shaden Sharp's name should have been linked to someone over the
Yeah.
deadline. The fact that he seemed untouchable in OG Anunoby talks was wild. Or we should have heard more about, oh, you wanted to shop Yusuf Nurkic? Okay, fucking cool. Nobody wants that contract at this point. Why didn't we hear more about trying to pivot with Anthony Simons? That's a player that I think would be fairly coveted. So they're just so uninspiring to me.
Yeah, I think they're distinct from, we've talked about Minnesota and you mentioned New Orleans, because I think those two teams can look at this year, however it ends, and say, well, like we had, Gobert was harder to integrate than we thought, and Towns got hurt, and there's all this other stuff. And the Pelicans can say like everybody was hurt and we're really young. And if we do nothing, we can come back next year and like either Minnesota or New Orleans could have home court advantage in a first round series, in 2024. Totally plausible. If the Blazers don't change anything, what are you hoping for? Like Shaden Sharp levels up, like that's Simons tries to play defense like once. Like what are your sort of what is going to soothe the ache of like being 11th in the West? Like where's your upside? Where's your path out? I don't know where that is for Portland. That's the difference, I think, and why they're a good pick.